My name is Jenna Rivera, and I live in a small, sleepy suburb just outside Savannah, Georgia. The kind of place where everyone waves politely, lawns are always trimmed, and marriages last long past their expiration dates. I'm 36, married for 9 years to Ethan Rivera, a quiet man who used to make me laugh so hard I cried. These days, I mostly just cry. Silently, without tears. It didn't fall apart in a single moment. There was no betrayal I could point to, no dramatic fight, no slammed doors or screaming. That would have been easier. At least it would have meant we still cared enough to fight. No. What killed us was silence. Thick, heavy, and far too familiar. Not the comforting kind. The kind that makes you feel galaxies apart even though you're sitting 3 feet from each other on the same couch. We didn't argue anymore, but we didn't talk either. Every conversation was reduced to logistics. Groceries, bills, the dog's vet appointment. His hand never reached for mine anymore. My body might as well have been invisible. I used to believe love matured into quiet comfort, but comfort shouldn't feel like absence. At first, I told myself we were just going through a phase. Marriage had seasons, didn't it? Some winters just lasted longer than others. But then I started noticing things. His phone, always face down. The constant clearing of messages. A new password I was never told. I didn't suspect he was cheating. Not really. What scared me more was that he didn't care if I suspected it or not. He'd grown cold, distant, indifferent, and that indifference was the sharpest betrayal of all. I wasn't looking for anyone else. I wasn't out there seeking attention. I just wanted him to see me again, to look up when I walked in the room, to notice the new dress, the red lipstick, the quiet desperation in my eyes. One night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, not searching for flaws, but for proof that I still existed. I wore the perfume he used to love, the one he bought for our 3rd anniversary. I waited. He barely looked up from his laptop. And that was the moment something inside me cracked. I wasn't angry, I wasn't even sad. I was numb. And numbness, I realized, was more terrifying than heartbreak. A week later, on a whim or maybe survival instinct, I went out. It wasn't planned. I just couldn't stand the walls of our house closing in on me anymore. I put on a leather jacket I hadn't worn in years, swiped on eyeliner with shaking hands, and drove downtown. I didn't tell Ethan. I don't think he would have noticed if I had. I found myself at a low-lit place called the Velvet Room, a jazz bar tucked between antique shops and brick alleys. I sat at the bar and ordered a drink. One turned into 2. I listened to music I didn't recognize and let the sound fill the silence I'd carried for so long. Then he sat next to me. Luca Moretti, a photographer in town for a gallery opening. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but he had this calm, curious energy. He asked if I came there often, and when I said no, he smiled and said, "Then I'm lucky tonight." We talked. Not flirted, talked. He asked what I did, and when I said I used to paint before life got in the way, he didn't nod distractedly like most people. He leaned in. "What did you love painting the most?" "Skies," I said without thinking. "Before they turn dark." That moment where everything feels like it could go either way. He just smiled. That's when the light is the most honest. It took me a second to breathe. It wasn't about romance. It wasn't even about attraction. It was about being seen. Being asked a question and listened to. Truly, quietly, fully. He didn't touch me. He didn't need to, because his eyes made me feel like a person again, not a burden someone forgot to carry. We sat there for almost 2 hours. I told him about college, my love for old movies, the way I always wanted to visit Italy. He told me about his travels, his favorite books, and a photo he once took in Iceland that made him cry. It was light, deep, and everything in between. I smiled so much my cheeks hurt. And that's when I realized I'd been starving, not for sex, but for intimacy, connection, presence. When I left, he didn't ask for my number. He just said, "Thank you for tonight. You reminded me why I love meeting strangers." I drove home with the windows down. The cool night air hit my face, and I felt alive. My chest was tight, not with guilt, but with clarity. Some line had been crossed, not a physical one, but something sacred had definitely shifted. I hadn't cheated, but I had betrayed the silence, and maybe that was worse. When I walked into the house, it was dark except for the flicker of the TV. Ethan was exactly where I'd left him, on the couch, hoodie on, earbuds in, blue light washing over his tired face. He didn't hear me come in, didn't ask where I'd been, didn't smell the perfume, didn't look up. I stood there for a moment, holding my purse tightly, staring at the man who used to feel like home. He was right there, and I had never felt so alone. I walked past him without a word, went upstairs, and sat on the edge of the bed we hadn't shared in days. I looked at my phone. No missed calls, no messages, nothing. And I realized he hadn't noticed I was gone, because in his mind, I hadn't really been here for a long time anyway. They say the slowest heartbreak is the one where nothing happens. No big betrayal, no scandal. Just two people drifting so far apart they stop noticing they're even alone. That night at the bar didn't lead to an affair, but it did lead me back to myself. And maybe that's the most dangerous kind of betrayal. The one where you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and remember how to save yourself. That night, I didn't fall for another man. I remembered the woman I used to be, and I don't know where she's going next. But I do know she's never disappearing again.